Hey everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. So, the reason of this video, the purpose of this video is for me to create a step-by-step process on how to start up your mead projects, your beverage projects. So, I think this is a really good opportunity for us to understand how fermentation works and what are the things that happens during fermentation process. Now, what we are going to do is called a mead, M-E-A-D, and mead is basically honey wine. Now, it's a little bit like beer, but not so quite. It's a little bit like it's a little bit like wine, but not as quite as the characteristics of wine. So it's like in between. Now, mead is actually dated back in medieval times. This is one of the very first alcohol ever fermented around 3000 BC. And mead has been drunk by Greek, Romans, and Vikings, if you are familiar with them. Now, to get things started, I will be handing these out to everyone in class, in person. Now, this is basically a starter kit, quote-unquote, a mead starter kit, right? So everything that you need to create an alcoholic beverage is actually in here. So I'll take it out and then I'll explain what's in it. And then maybe at some point during the in-person classes, I'll also explain this. So you have your plastic cover. This will be used to cover the container that we'll be using for fermentation. So I'm just gonna drink a glass of water. So next, sorry. Next would be Campden tablets. Now, Campden tablets, these are used to sanitize the wine must, right? Or the mead must. They prevent bacteria from spoiling the wine, and they are antioxidants to keep all from stalling the wine. So how we use this is basically per 1 gallon of liquid, we will use 1 Campden tablet. We will crush it and mix it with the liquid, then stir it into the liquid, and then wait for 24 hours for it to actually fully dissolve and for it to do its magic. So this is a Campden tablet. Next is this is called an aseptox. Aseptox is an environmental friendly sanitizer. How it's used is for 1 tablespoon of aseptox. So every person will receive 1 bag, and 1 bag is 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon is dissolved into 4 liters of water. Okay, and then that 4 liters of water, you can use that as a sanitizer for kitchen equipment, but for us, in this case, we will use that to sanitize everything that we'll be using for making the mead, even the containers. Now, the most important part is this. This is our yeast. Now, I do have to mention, in creating wine or in making wine, technically all yeast can be used, but this is going to be the most effective. I'm not sure if you are seeing it there, but you can see the name of the yeast. It's a little bit hard to pronounce, but this is the yeast I was talking in person in class before. And then this is also a sparkling wine yeast, a champagne yeast. I do have to say, there are 2 different types of yeast that's used in fermentation and alcohol. One is a regular brewery yeast, and it can produce around 8% of alcohol. Now this is a little bit stronger. This is sparkling wine or champagne yeast. This can produce around 18% alcohol. So because again, what's going to happen is that at some point the yeast will die depending on the amount of alcohol percentage that's in the liquid or you know, around its environment. Now, regular yeast, they are killed at 8% alcohol, but this is a very stronger one, like what I said, 18%. So let's get things started. You should have all of your recipes in My Learning. Now, recipes would involve 1 gallon of water. Now, in My Learning, or in the recipe, there are some conversion if you prefer to have a smaller batch of mead made. I think there's a conversion there in My Learning that says, or that assists you in making 1 quart instead of 1 gallon. 1 quart is a quarter of 1 gallon, and then you just have to convert the rest of the recipes afterward. So we'll need 1 gallon of water. I have my water over here. Sorry, let me see if it works. 4 cups of honey. I have honey here. Now, 4 cups of honey. Now, my recipe is for 1 gallon, right? So just take note. Follow my procedure, but depending on what or how much yield you want, just follow your conversion, right? So just do the math. The important part here is that it should be all equal parts depending on the main recipe. Now, what I'll be using is in the recipe, 4 cups of honey to 1 gallon will give you a sweeter finished product. If you prefer a not so much sweeter mead, or not so much, not too of a sweet beverage, use 3 cups of honey, right? And then 1 pack of yeast, Campton tablets. Just a note, I did mention orange slice in the recipe. Please use that. For the sake of my showcase, I will use 1 fruit, which is blueberry, and also some flavoring agents. I did say raisins there as well. That's very important, but again, just for the sake of me showcasing my recipe, I have a yeast nutrient, but a substitute for that is raisin. So technically, raisins are food supply for the yeast, so it actually promotes fermentation. So again, so I actually have my my cell phone here in front of me just to have some guidelines. So 1 pack of yeast, okay, flavoring agents, equipment. Okay, let's get things started. Number 1, sanitize all equipment. How I do it, so this is 1 liter of water. I have my Aseptox. Aseptox, again, this is a sanitizer. You don't have to rinse this, okay? So when you do have your liquid sanitizer using this, you don't have to rinse it with water again. So this is 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon is good for 4 liters, but what I'll do, I'll just use a quarter, 1/4 of this, right? So I have all of my equipments here. I have my whisk, I have my stirrer, I have my measuring cup, I have my spatula. This is just a container. I want to sanitize this. I also have a container here with me. It's just a regular pot, but it does the work. So I'll sanitize this as well. What I'll do, I'll actually have 2 batches. I'm just gonna make 1 Aseptox sanitizer just to dump it all here, and then another Aseptox sanitizer using 1 liter of water just to sanitize this as well, right? So the most important feature of Aseptox is actually this will actually prevent, this will kill all of the microbacteria that would prevent your wine from fermenting, right? Very similar to Campton tablets, but this one here, it actually kills all the bad yeast inside of your wine, and it also promotes, it's an antioxidant, and it also promotes or not promotes, sorry, it actually takes off the chlorine from the water. So maybe a different discussion. So what I'll do, I'll just use 1/4 of this first. Just gonna try my best to open this up. Okay. I'll use 1/4. I'm just using a I'm using a teaspoon, and I'm just using 1/4 of this. Give it a good stir. Just stir until it's a little bit dissolved. And then this is these are all my equipments. I want to sanitize this, and again, this is a no rinse sanitizer use, so it's just a matter of dumping it in and it being sanitized. Okay. As you guys are seeing, I'm not gonna tilt it because it might spill, but I basically have a liquid and everything's being sanitized here. Okay. Now I want to sanitize my container. So what I'll do, I'll fill this up again. But you know, your process of sanitizing, it really depends on what on what works best for you, right? I provided you the the item to sanitize everything. Just remember the portions. It's 1 tablespoon to 4 liters, right? And again, this is 1 liter, so I'm just using 1/4 of this. So I'm just filling this up really quick, sorry. Okay. And it's very important to actually sanitize all of your equipments when you're making wine or you're making beer, just before any fermentation, really, just because of the fact that you're dealing with living organisms, right? So yeast is living. Well, it's a living, breathing micro thing, right? So if there's any bacteria or dirt that touches your mead or that touches your liquid, the liquid that you're trying to ferment, it's just gonna ruin everything because it might not ferment at all at the first place. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just dump this here, right? Just gonna add more. I'm just gonna everything. And now what I'll do, sorry. I'm just gonna basically ensure that everything is coated and everything, or all of the edges of my container are coated with the sanitizer, just so I am sure that there's nothing that may come up during my process. But again, this is a no rinse sanitizer. You don't have to rinse it, so I'll just dump it now. Okay. So now next step is basically having the water in here and also your honey. So mixing the water and honey. I have 1 gallon of water and I'm going to use 3 cups of honey. So give me just 1 moment. I just how do you say that? I just wiped it out really quickly. There was just some water residue. So what I'll do, this is room temperature water. I don't need to heat it up, just because if you heat up the water, it might be a little bit difficult to gauge the temperature at certain level. Anything above 91 degrees Fahrenheit, it'll kill the yeast instantly, right? So that's my reason. So dump the water here. So this is 1 gallon of water. So 1 gallon of water, and then using my sanitized measuring cup, I'll measure 3 cups of honey. Actually, I might need to open up another bottle. I might use this. I might use it. So I'll measure everything. That's 1. I have a rubber spatula here, sanitized as well in that solution. So I'll just scrape this out. Place it right here for a bit. I have the 3rd cup. Sorry, not the 3rd, the 2nd, I mean. So if you are going to the supermarket, I guess, you know, just to buy your ingredients, just take note of how much honey you need to buy. So now, once you are done mixing your the honey and the water, now it's time for us to add some of the ingredients here, or some of the fruits. Now in your recipe, I've included a piece of orange and also some raisins. Please have that. But for myself, for the sake of just the demonstration and the showcase, I can actually have that without those ingredients, but it's not going to be as good tasting, if that makes sense. And also, the raisins, that's actually a substitute for yeast nutrients. So it's another item that I use for winemaking. So the yeast nutrient, that's actually that's something that you add to promote the yeast to eat more sugar. But a good substitute for that are actually raisins. I've included 10 raisins. Put that in here along with the oranges, and after that we would add the crushed Campton tablet here, and then wait 24 hours. So for just moving forward, right? So I have, in terms of fruits, I will be using blueberries. But again, for your projects, please use an orange. Please add raisins, and then have fun with it, right? So any fruit that you have, you know, tropical fruits, stone fruits, strawberries, berries, if you want to add that here, please go ahead. Just ensure that you're not going overboard with, you know, just adding so many fruits. So using my sanitized spoon, I think I'm going to add a good amount of blueberries here. So in this sense, it's gonna be a blueberry honey mead. So I've finished adding my blueberries in my honey mixture. I hope that you guys can see it, but it's just right here. It's 1 gallon honey, water, blueberries. So the next process is actually having the Captain tablet and then crushing it. So crush your Captain tablet. If you want to use a mallet or any, like, I'm not sure, like even the base of a glass, just crush it and then have that sprinkled over here. That would be your next step, right? But also please do ensure that everything is all sanitized, right? Sorry, everything is sanitized, even your crusher. So again, what's the reason of us using a Captain tablet? The reason is because Captain tablets will sanitize the wine must, right? So it will kill all of the bacteria here, even the bacteria or the wild yeast, wild nutrients from the blueberries. It will kill everything, right? So it will make the wine a little bit more stable during the fermentation process. It prevents bacteria from spoiling the wine. It's an antioxidant to keep all from staling the wine, if that makes sense. It's also sulfur metavized sulfite, so that's also one of the chemical compounds here. It's very safe for use. Now, the next step is actually to wait 24 hours to add our yeast, right? So I'll stop the video here. Right now it's Sunday at around 1:35 a.m. actually. So I'll be able to do this around Monday. I'll follow up this video with me adding the yeast and then the next process. So your next process is actually having a cover for this. Now I'm fairly lucky, I guess, because I have a cover. I have a cover like this. And that's good. So wait for 24 hours. The plastic bag, sorry, not this one, the plastic bag, that's when we add the yeast, because you know how there's CO2 being released during the fermentation. So the plastic bag with like punch holes in it, that will actually help a little bit, release the CO2 without having other elements go into your mixture. Okay. All right. Well, that's all that I have, everyone. I hope this video wasn't too all over the place. I tried my best. But if you have any questions, let me know. Hey there, guys. So after 24 hours, I got here with me the must. As you guys can see, it's 1 gallon of honey, water, the blueberries that I've dumped into the mixture last night, and I also got the chance to get some raisins, so I have them all here. Now the next step is to actually add the yeast, right? Sorry. So that's the yeast. So again, this is sparkling yeast. Sparkling yeast, it will produce around 18. Well, it has the ability to create an 18% alcohol content, right? So how do you use the yeast? So I'm not going to use all of the yeast in the packet. I just need to use 1/2 of it. Okay, so the other half, store it in a dry place, and when the time comes, you can reuse it if you want to. But very important, you need to rehydrate the yeast in warm water. Now this is around 1/4 cup of warm water, and again the glass is sterilized, sanitized, and as well as my spoon. I'm just going to open this up. Okay. The yeast will not dissolve, it will just be rehydrated, okay? So I'm just gonna use 1/2 of this. Okay, not too much. Then the other half I'll just put away. Okay. I think just a little bit more. So I'll put this away. And now, the last part, to put the yeast in. And the reason why we're rehydrating the yeast is just so it has a good smooth transition from being a dry microorganism to just being immersed into an environment where it can fully, can fully eat and grow and be and nurture. Okay, looks like about right. So I will pour this in. Do a good stir. Okay, there you go. Next step. So you have your plastic cover. I do advise you to poke some holes in it first. Right, so the main purpose of this plastic cover is to just cover up your container, right? And the reason why it's it's a quick solution, because what's going to happen, the CO2 will try to escape, and at least the plastic cover will have the ability to expand, and the CO2 will be released, have the ability to be released, and at the same time, bacteria, organism cannot go into your wine, right, into your mead. Now, the next step really is just to make sure that this is covered. Depends on you. What I'll do, just because I have a bigger container, I'll use a saran wrap, and what I will do is I'll just make a rope out of it and then tie it up like this one. Okay, so there you go. The next step, wait for it for 2 to 3 weeks, and usually by the second or third day you should see little bubbles. That means that it's working. If you don't see that, let me know, and then take a picture, send it to me, and I'll reassess what's happening. Okay, sounds good.